Join us now as we proudly present Commander USA's Groovie Movies.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another edition of Horror Hosts and Their Movies. Now, this is actually the movie and the episode that inspired this whole series, because the way this came about was I was looking for a certain movie, The Abominable Snowman, the Hammer film. I had read about it into this book about the screenwriter Nigel Neal called Into the Unknown. I had seen some of my YouTube friends like Horrific Nightmares JM review the film, and it had, Peter Cushing in it. It was a Hammer film with an abominable snowman. Okay. Needless to say, I wanted to see it, and it didn't seem to be streaming anywhere until I discovered it on archive.com, which they've got all kinds of old stuff. But it was the version of the film. This is a film that is less than an hour and a half, but it's a 2-hour version of the film because it's the entire show that was hosted by Commander USA as part of his Commander USA's Groovie Movies.
Today's Groovie movie, The Abominable Snowman. And now, Commander USA.
Heat wave, tropical heat wave, temperatures right. Whoa, hey there, Commander USA, you're soaring superhero. Legion of Decency, retired. I'm glad you showed up today, boy. Heck, I'm glad I showed up. I mean, it's so
Series that ran from 1985 to 1989 on the USA Network. So complete with commercials and everything. Let me tell you, I had a blast watching the host segments. Was I familiar with Commander USA? Yeah, a little bit. This was a time in my life that coincided with me like getting a driver's license and being less likely to be sitting at home on a Saturday watching TV. I had part-time jobs and stuff too. Looking back, man, I wish I could have seen more of these live, because Commander USA played some really cool movies. This is a Hammer movie. Now, I didn't grow up watching Hammer movies in the 70s. They typically were not on TV. And he showed a number of them, apparently. Some of the Frankenstein series. He also showed some other genres, some crazy kung fu movies, some Bruceploitation movies like The Spirit of Bruce Lee. So, I'm definitely going to check out some more of these episodes. And I love watching the whole episode with the host segments, the commercials, which are just so 80s. It's just, you forget how 80s the 80s were until you see some of these commercials.
It's the double-decker meal.
I really had a great time with this, and it kind of led me to think of this whole series that I'm doing. So yes, Commander USA was a guy named Jim Hendricks, and he was a radio DJ who came to USA Network to host these Saturday afternoon movies, and he kind of plays a retired middle-aged superhero with kind of a gruff manner, and he's chomps on a cigar, and he talks to his friend Lefty, who has a picture of a smiley face in his hand. And I love the simplicity of that. A lot of the best horror hosts didn't try to have outrageous sets or skits or anything. They did very simple things. His set design is really cool. It's just kind of like looks like an old storeroom or something. But I think he blows a whistle and the wall opens up and there's a screen there and the movie starts. And of course he comes back in between. He talks a little bit about the movie, does some ridiculous skits. In this one, supposedly it's a hot day, so that's why he's watching The Abominable Snowman, and he decides he's going to make a flotilla of boats out of different food items. It's in a little tank he has. It's a little weird, but it's kind of funny. The announcer is great. The whole program is just a lot of fun and a lot, it's just filled with nostalgia. I think this would have been perfect. I'm sure there's a group of kids out there maybe that were probably younger than me. They were more like in middle school age, who, couldn't drive and weren't out doing things as much on Saturdays. They were home watching horror movies like they were supposed to be. Who, this really was a very formulative program in their liking of certain movies. Because he had some of the old ones, the Catwoman, Bela Lugosi's Dracula, but he also did Friday the 13th and Mausoleum, Alone in the Dark, some more modern, for the time, films. So, it was a pretty good mix. So I'm sure he introduced a lot of very cool movies to a lot of very cool kids. So fantastic horror host. Apparently after this he did a little bit of acting, and he was in a couple movies. Let's see if I can get the titles for you. Okay, so he was in a film called Brutal Fury from 1993, and then Hungry Ghosts in 2009. And that one appears to have a lot of the same actors who were in The Sopranos, despite the title being The Hungry Ghosts. It looks like it's an anthology film. I don't think it has anything to do with the supernatural. So I'm not sure that Dr. Gangrene will be featuring that one on his series this October called Ghost Hosts, where he's reviewing films that feature a horror host. So he's already had a few surprises. We're 6 days in as I'm recording this video, and he's had some really good ones on there. I've learned a lot. So check out his channel and this countdown of ghost hosts. Really good stuff. It's possible, though. Who knows? Who knows? We'll see. And then he was also a host of a show called The Horrible Night at the Movies for a while. So if anybody knows anything about that, like what channel it was on, not even sure what network it was on, if anybody has any information about that, please let me know. In the meantime, I've got many Commander USA shows to catch up on. I could see doing this. I could see coming back next October and reviewing another one of these. These are tons of fun. He passed away on St. Patrick's Day, 1918, okay. 2018, at the age of 68, very sadly. He also did a little stage work. So really fun to see him host this program. Brought back memories. You know, the USA Network had a certain kind of a feel in the 80s. I'm sure you guys can remember that. Now let's get to the movie. As I said, I've always wanted to see this movie, and I, even having read about it. So this had been a filmed telefilm in Great Britain on, I believe, the BBC. And I've talked about how they used to have live plays of, works of literature and screenplays, things like 1984, which starred Peter Cushing. And they would gather a live cast together and rehearse and then do it twice, once on Sunday and then on Thursday. Well, I'm not sure why they thought like a movie about an abominable snowman would be great to record in a studio in front of an audience with fake snow and mountains and everything, but they did it, and I'm glad they did because this gave Peter Cushing some work, led him to being cast in this film. And this film is directed by Val Guest. Now, he had already directed The Quatermass Experiment and The Quatermass Experiment 2. He would eventually go on to direct, Stop Me Before I Kill, which is another Hammer film. Those were both Hammer films, by the way. And he also directed The Day the Earth Caught Fire, wrote and directed, which my good friend Kenny from Kenny's Movie Palace just told me about a couple weeks ago, and I watched that. Man, that was a great movie. And yeah, it is significant that he wrote a lot of these movies too. He's a very good writer. Now, he disagreed with Nigel Neal a little bit about how much to show the creature. And I know my friend Jason from Horrific Nightmares touched upon this. And I think I agree with him, if I can remember his review. They show enough. Okay? A hand coming under a tent. It's pretty well done. Just a quick shot of the creature. You can kind of see his eyes. Apparently, Nigel Neal wanted to put a little more of the creature in. Val Guest wanted to have a little bit of a less is more approach. I would say you probably see less of the creature, of the Abominable Snowman in here than you do of, like, for example, The Thing from Another World and The Thing from Another World. It does take a while to see The Thing from Another World, but eventually you get a pretty good look at it. A little bit less. You don't get quite that much in this film. A very good film. Essentially, you have a botanist played by Peter Cushing, who's hanging out in the Himalayas or Himalayas. You could pronounce it the Peter Cushing way. Well, we probably can't. We would probably sound silly, but Peter Cushing could pronounce anything any damn way he wants because he's just sounded cool. And they added a couple characters from the teleplay. He's got like a friend and his wife, and they're kind of in a base camp in the Himalayas, and there's like some monks there, just meditating and chilling out. And then another guy named Tom Friend, that's his name, played by Forrest Tucker, comes to hang out there and use it as a base camp, and then he wants to go out and discover the Abominable Snowman, and he's very aggressive and pushy, okay? Now, the screenwriter Nigel Neal was a little bit nonplussed on the way that they would take his plays or movies, we'll call them TV movies, which aired on the BBC, and then when they made a film out of them, they would replace at least some of the actors with Americans, which is, it's kind of understandable. These are American companies, and they're trying to sell the movie. Like, he was not happy about Brian Donlevy playing Quatermass. But he was kind of neutral on Forrest Tucker playing Tom Friend. Okay, he said he gave a pretty good performance, a little bit more aggressive than the performance that Stanley Baker gave in the TV movie. Stanley Baker, ironically, was actually a pretty well-established film actor by then. And man, he was a good actor. He was in movies such as Zulu. So it would have been interesting to see Stanley Baker in this role. But Forrest Tucker gets the job done. They go out. There's some mysterious things that happen. A few fleeting glimpses of the creature. A lot of personality clashes. They're out there in the elements. That's pretty much the story. The creature itself, but what I like about it is they don't just mindlessly bump into the creature a few times. The creature seems to be very calculating. So you're not seeing it a lot, but its presence is there. Once you get into the movie, the presence of the creature is felt like throughout the movie. It's an intelligent creature that seems to be kind of manipulative in a way. So yeah, I really enjoyed the movie. I would like to get a physical copy of the movie. But in the meantime, you can do a lot worse than watching the Commander USA presentation of the Abominable Snowman. What are your thoughts about the movie itself? What are your thoughts about Commander USA? I'm eager to see if anybody has any recollections of watching any Commander USA Groovie movies presentations on USA Network. Let me know in the comments below. Come back again for some more horror film reviews that were hosted by horror hosts. Later. Thanks.